to truly handicap the right way, Chelsea, I think we've talked about before, it is smart to try to make a solid case for both sides. And then based on that information that you have, you say, okay, I've tried to make the case for both sides. Which case is the most compelling? And then that is the side that I'm going to go with.
Yeah, those people at Oxford University could use our advice. Maybe you need to look at the other side when you're thinking of all these nights that men deserve off. All right, so let's start with the side that people probably aren't going to want to take, or at least from the people I've talked to. Let's talk about the Lions getting 7 here, because it does feel like maybe the public play, people seeing the Niners having a real tough time putting away the Packers. I tend to be on the other side with taking the Niners here, but let's argue the case for the Lions for just a second. I think you need to open your eyes to this Niners offense when they don't have Deebo Samuel, because it is not a lock, I don't think. Have we heard for sure if he's playing or not? I think it's going to be 50-50. And I know people love to talk about Christian McCaffrey and the other pieces on that offense, but Deebo Samuel is just as important. I've said this during the season. Wouldn't it be nice to have a receiver that can take a little shovel pass and take it, 23 yards when it's like 3rd and 17? We don't have any receivers on my team that can do that. So I think he is a bigger part of this offense than people think. So if he's not on the field, I think that is a big hole for the Niners to fill. And plus, this is the playoffs. 7 points in a game that's deciding a team that's going into the Super Bowl. We have seen the cheeks clench of Kyle Shanahan when he's in some of these situations where he acts a little bit more conservatively. And look at the metric that we talked about last week, or I guess the start of this week, where the Niners, 1-31 when trailing by 4 points or more going into the fourth quarter or in the fourth quarter, something like that. So if the Niners can find a way to get some momentum on their side, it feels like a Niners team that maybe crumbles under some of that pressure. We saw them succeed last week, but still, 7 points, a lot of points. So that is the case for the Detroit Lions covering.
I think that's a very good case. And the pressure that you mentioned on Kyle Shanahan and the Niners, this is their 3rd straight NFC Championship game? And Kyle Shanahan, going back to his time in Atlanta, has been in big spots before, has not been able to get it done. He knows he has arguably the best team in the NFL. And there is something to be said for going into a game like this and having nothing to lose. The Lions have nothing to lose.
Because there are plenty of points to be made for the Ravens, including how dominant they have been in the regular season and also the postseason. So, Jenks, what's the case for the Ravens?
The case for the Ravens is they are the best, I believe, top-to-bottom team remaining in the NFL playoffs. Lamar Jackson is going to win the MVP. He is playing like an MVP. The Ravens are extremely physical. They have, as good as the Chiefs' defense is, the Ravens' defense is even better. And if you're talking about getting past the Chiefs, the real strength of the Ravens' defense is their secondary. Much more so than the Bills. This will be a huge challenge for Kansas City. Also, the Ravens are playing at home. Now, you've got 2 great head coaches here, but I feel like John Harbaugh really has his finger on the pulse of this team. And one thing I love about the Ravens, and I've said this now for a few weeks, is they have the perfect mentality. The Ravens might be favored this weekend. They've been favored in their past few games, and they approach every single game like they're just pissed off. Like they have talked themselves into believing that no one believes in them, which is not true. But inside that little circle, that bubble of theirs, they believe that it is them against the world. I know you hear this all the time. It's one thing to say it. It's quite another thing to have everyone buy into it. And also the Ravens are really balanced. They can beat you in myriad ways, where I understand that Isaiah Pacheco has been running like a madman, but ultimately if the Chiefs are going to win, then they got to have Patrick Mahomes perform. Lamar sometimes can just hand off the football, and the Chiefs can be out-physicaled by the Ravens, just because they will wear you down and they just hit you again and again and again. The case for the Ravens is they are just the better team. They're not the most exciting team. They're not as sexy as watching Patrick Mahomes slinging around sidearm, but the Ravens have that blue-collar mentality. They just wear you down. And that's why in the second half of games this season, Baltimore is a team that just bowls you over and just pounds you and just ends up beating you into a pulp. That's what they've done all season long.
Yeah, look at this Ravens defense when facing some of the best offenses in the NFL. Even in this recent stretch, look what they did to C.J. Stroud. The Houston Texans did not score a single offensive touchdown for a guy that's the runaway leader for Rookie of the Year and a great season as a young quarterback. Look at what they did to the Niners. Beat them 33-19, and Brock Purdy had 4 interceptions. Look at what they did to the Dolphins, a team that hung a 70-burger in a game. Only scored 19. The Ravens beat the brakes off them 56-19. And oh, how about the other team that's still standing in the playoffs? Beat the Lions 38-6. This is a home game for the Ravens. And if you're worried about the spread, which at 3.5, you say, okay, that's a key number there. Of 10 games in the playoffs so far this season, only 2 games have been decided, by the spread.
Josh Allen said earlier this week he believes the Bills and the people running the franchise, so he doesn't believe that the window has closed for his team. However, Buffalo became the first team in over 25 years to lose to the same team in the playoffs 3 out of 4 seasons, that, of course, being Kansas City. They tied with the 2017-21 Saints for the most regular season wins without a Super Bowl appearance. 58 wins. So, is Allen right? Is the window still open for the Bills? And I'll throw in another little nugget for you.
Okay.
The team that has defeated the Bills has never won their next playoff game after they've beaten Buffalo. Take the Ravens this week.
Oh.
Jenks, go ahead. Window still open for the Bills?
Yes. Yes, it is. Josh Allen will only be 28 next season. Quarterbacks play for longer these days because the quarterback is more protected, because of medical science, whatever it is. Now, his game will have to evolve because he uses his legs so much. But, Bill, I'll give you full credit. I love the comparison that you made to John Elway, where early on in his career, Elway was asked to do everything. I think Elway had a better set of overall receivers because Josh Allen really doesn't have that. But ultimately, for a guy who's only 28, he could play another 10 years. Even if it's 7, 8 years, the Bills, I feel like, organizationally have sort of figured things out. And if they can adjust with Josh Allen and say, let's get you a couple more playmakers, and don't be surprised if they draft a receiver late in the first round, and also their defense is really banged up this season. If they can stay healthy, get a couple more playmakers, is it really so crazy to think that Josh Allen at 32 or 33 could win a Super Bowl? I don't think so. So I think the window is still open.
I don't think the questions are ever on Josh Allen. I think the questions come with the defense. What has let the Bills down every single year in the playoffs? Hasn't it been their defense? You look at their losses. Gave up 27 to the Chiefs. Gave up 27 to the Bengals in 2022. 2021. Gave up 42 points to the Chiefs. Of course, that huge defensive breakdown in overtime. So I don't think the questions, are hanging on Josh Allen. I think it's the defense. And maybe it's because of the injuries, but this is not a bargain defense. They're paying a lot of money for some of these guys on the defensive line. So I think that's where the questions start. Maybe the window's still open, but they have got to figure out the defense.